Welcome to This Explainer. Have you ever felt, completely overwhelmed, only to suddenly realize your jaw was clenched super tight and your shoulders were literally up to your ears? It's a wild realization, isn't it? Well, today we're unpacking a remarkably actionable blueprint for internal mastery. We're looking at the core mechanics of how we process our own physical and mental states. The source material we're exploring maps out a specific framework for understanding ourselves from the inside out. We're going to break down this blueprint, strip away all the noise, and look purely at the structured practices that lead to true internal capability. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this overarching theme from the text, revealing power within us. Now, I want you to focus on that specific word, revealing. The source doesn't talk about creating power, and it definitely doesn't talk about borrowing it. It explicitly focuses on revealing it. So why does that distinction matter? Well, creating power kind of implies that you're currently lacking something, like you're starting from absolute zero, but revealing, that means the toolkit is already hardwired into your biology. You already have the machinery. The capability to handle your internal environment already exists right there inside you, but it requires a structured approach to clear the static and bring it to the surface. The text outlines that participants engage in a dedicated practice session to unlock this. It's essentially a deliberate unearthing of what is already there.
Before we look at the specific tools the text provides, I've got to ask you a question directly on the premise of our source. How do you currently map your own stress and emotion? Notice I use the word map there, not just feel. You see, most of us just experience stress passively, as it kind of washes over us. But the framework we're exploring today demands a proactive approach. So what does that actually look like? Well, passive feeling is snapping at a coworker because you're stressed out and not even realizing why. Proactive mapping, on the other hand, is realizing your heart rate is elevated and your chest is tight before that meeting even starts, allowing you to intercept the reaction. If you don't have a structured way to chart what's happening inside your body and mind, that internal power we just talked about, it remains entirely hidden.
Section 1. Revealing your inner power.
The source text explicitly states the ultimate goal of all these practices. It is the journey to manage stress and emotion. I absolutely love the use of the word journey here. It frames stress management not as some final destination you magically arrive at or a switch you just flip off once you've learned a neat trick. Instead, it's a continuous navigation of daily life. Think about it. Stress isn't really something you cure, it's an environment you navigate. The practice session is the vehicle, but managing stress and emotion, that is the long-term expedition. Every single tool we're about to look at serves this singular, absolutely vital purpose, keeping you on course during that journey.
Section 2. Physical awareness and inventory.
Let's move to and see how this builds your toolkit. How do we actually begin this journey? Well, the text starts by grounding the participant right in the body. The source material builds our toolkit on 4 foundational pillars that must be learned during a practice session. 2 of these tools are designed for the body, and 2 are designed for the mind. We've got managing a body inventory, learning body awareness, conducting a stress and emotional awareness diary, and keeping a record of general tension. By splitting these mechanics between the physical and the mental, the framework ensures a really comprehensive approach. We're going to examine each one of these to understand exactly how they function and why they're so absolutely critical to building your internal toolkit.
So, the first specific skill participants learn to manage is the body inventory. Think of an inventory in a massive warehouse. It's methodical, totally objective counting of what is present right now. Based on our source text, a body inventory operates the exact same way. It is a systematic process of taking stock of your physical state. What exactly are we counting in this bodily warehouse? Well, you might ask yourself, are my shoulders tight? Is my breathing shallow? Is there a weird flutter in my stomach? You aren't judging the inventory. You aren't getting mad that the boxes are in the wrong place. You're just objectively counting the boxes. It's the foundational step of checking in and logging the raw data of your physical presence before any emotional analysis even starts.
While the inventory is the structured check-in, the text distinctly pairs it with learning body awareness. If the inventory is a static checklist, awareness is the active, ongoing practice of actually recognizing those physical sensations in real time. To put it in perspective, if the body inventory is checking your tire pressure while your car is parked in the driveway, body awareness is feeling the car pull slightly to the left while you're driving 70 miles an hour down the highway. It's a real-time, active recognition of how your physical self is operating under the stress of motion. According to the text, both the static inventory and the dynamic awareness must be learned in the practice session to truly reveal that inner power.
Section 3. Tracking stress and tension.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the source material shifts us into the active documentation phase with the stress and emotional awareness diary. The text dictates that participants must learn to conduct this diary, but how does the source suggest we actually use it? This isn't just about venting onto a page, you know? It's a disciplined habit meant to find patterns and identify psychological triggers. By dedicating a log specifically to stress and emotional awareness, the participant externalizes their internal state. Why does that matter? Because externalizing emotions physically onto a page helps the brain process stress differently. It literally takes the complex, swirling emotions of your journey and maps them out meticulously so you can actually see them, analyze them, and ultimately manage them.
Running parallel to the emotional diary is the fourth and final tool from the text, the record of general tension in the body. It's really fascinating that the source separates this from the emotional diary. This tells us that general physical tension is treated as its own critical standalone metric. You aren't just logging how you feel mentally, you're creating a hard record of the physical tension your body's holding onto. This is essentially documenting your stress residue. Think about how unresolved emotional stress from an argument can literally turn into a physical knot in your lower back days later. By keeping a targeted documentation of this physical stress residue, you're drawing a direct, undeniable connection between what your mind endures and what your body stores.
And this brilliantly illustrates a beautiful symmetry within the framework. When we lay out the 4 practices we've discussed, we see a perfectly balanced feedback loop. On one side, we have the physical tracking, taking a static body inventory and recording general physical tension. And then on the other side, we have the mental tracking through the dynamic stress and emotional awareness diary. The practice session doesn't prioritize the mind over the body or the body over the mind. Instead, it recognizes that they are constantly communicating with each other. It demands equal, structured attention to both sides of the equation in order to successfully reveal your inner power.
Section 4. The journey to manage stress.
So the crucial point is how we've unpacked the specific tools. And now we look at how they all converge into the final objective. The blueprint we've analyzed follows a brilliantly clear logic path derived directly from our source. This is where it all comes together. Step 1 is the dedicated practice session to actually learn the mechanics. This initial effort unlocks Step 2, which is the active daily application of those 4 mechanics: the body inventory, the body awareness, the emotional diary, and the tension record. And ultimately, Step 2 empowers Step 3, actively managing the journey of stress and emotion. It's a compounding effect. The learning enables the tools, and the tools empower the journey.
The source text leaves us with a highly structured, highly practical approach to internal mastery. We know now that the inner power we've been talking about isn't some mystical, magical force. It is the direct result of disciplined daily habits. It's the product of methodical inventory, sharp awareness, and disciplined tracking of both our physical tension and our emotional state. So I leave you with this final thought based entirely on the framework we've just explored. Now that you have the blueprint for this practice, how will you manage your journey? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.